scan in order to help us look at the scan more easily. Okay, you can see how the midline here is shifted towards the left side. How do I do this? This is a larger field of view, as you can see. This is about 16 centimeter field of view. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the patient's name, the date of birth, and the date of scan acquisition is accurate to the patient that you're looking at. Okay, this is the most important thing you're going to do. Why? Because you don't want a mistaken identity. Okay? You don't want a mistaken identity. Make sure the patient's name, date of birth, and date of the scan acquired is accurate. First important thing. Second important thing is you're going to reorient the scan so that you can bring the anatomical structures in the same plane. So you see how this looks asymmetric? We are going to rotate the scan. So what are we going to use? In these larger fields of view, you use the external auditory canals, which are these black lines right here. You see, this is where the hearing happens. Here's the ear. It goes through here and into this air-filled space. This is the bony part of the external auditory canal. If I take this line right here, which represents the coronal plane, you see how this is moving when I move the blue line? I'm going to take this to the back of the canal right here, okay? And you can see how they're not lined up with one another. And on the software, I can adjust this, I can rotate it to help me bring them in the same plane, okay? So I'm going to do that. I'll do the same thing for the axial, all right? So I'm going to take this line and I'm going to make it touch the bottom of the bony portion of the external auditory canal. And I'm rotate it slightly to make sure that these two parts touch, okay? So now, when I go through the scan, the anatomical structures will be almost the same on both sides. And it's going to help me make sure that there's no pathology. When the anatomy is similar on both sides, I will be able to pick up abnormality much faster. The last thing that I do is I will take this axial plane and I will line it up to the hard palate. Okay, so anterior nasal spine, posterior nasal spine lined up with this. Okay, so the two most important things you're going to do are identify that the scan belongs to the patient. The second most important thing you're going to do is you're going to reorient the scan to make sure that when you go through it, the anatomical structures are the same on both sides. Okay? Now, after this is done, we're going to get rid of any lines so that they don't distract us. What we're going to do is we're going to go all the way to the top of the scan. So I'm going to put the lines back just so that you see where we're going. We're going all the way to the top of the scan, all the way up. And the way that I approach this, the way that I see is the easiest way for a dentist who is yet still learning cone beam CT, is to think of things in terms of color or shades of gray. Your eyes can pick up the pathology faster if you're focusing in on one shade of gray. So what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to look at the black things first. What are the black things? They're the spaces that have air in them. You are going to look at the sinuses, the nasal cavity, the nasopharynx, and the oropharynx. I will show you how to do this right now. So basically what you're doing is you're going to go from the top of the scan through each of these anatomical structures, one by one, all these black areas, all the way down to the bottom of the scan. And when you're done with the black areas, you're going to climb up the bones of the cervical spine. And when you remember that bone is made out of two components, you have the dense cortical outline that should be continuous and uniform, and the cancellous bone, the bone marrow spaces that need to be uniform, so no low density or high density in between. Before you learn your anatomy, until you learn that anatomy, This is a concept that you need to think about. Bone has to be surrounded by dense cortical bone, and the inside needs to be of the same density, okay? No variations in density. You're going to go through that, and then of course we get into the skull base, which is more complicated. I'll show you how to do it, but this is something that's going to require you learning more about your anatomy. When you're done with all of this, you are going to quickly go through the gray things, which are the soft tissue, okay? So one density at a time, gray things, and then after all that is done, you look at maxilla, you look at mandible, and then you look at teeth. And then you look at the thing that you care about. You see, the thing that you care about is the last thing, so that you don't miss anything. So now here we go. We're going to go to the top of the scan. I'm going to get rid of all these distractions, top of the scan. Moving downwards through the scan, I'm going to look for the first black thing. The black things that appear first are going to be the frontal sinuses. These frontal sinuses, and any sinus should look like this, black on white, okay? There is a very thin layer of soft tissue called the Schneiderian membrane, which is the respiratory epithelium, which is usually not apparent on cone-beam CT because it's smaller than the voxel size. It only becomes apparent when it becomes inflamed, okay? So that's something you're looking for. You want black on white, okay? As you go through, black on white. You're comparing both sides to one another, black on white, no gray, okay? Going down through now, two sets of air-filled spaces. Here we have the ethmoid sinuses, and here we have the sphenoid sinuses. Same thing, black on white, black on white. We go through this set of air-filled spaces first, the ethmoids, and of course it's a whole bunch of air bubbles. And then we're going to go to the top of the sphenoids. Starting from the top, moving our way down, black on white is what we want, all the way down. Now we're going to look at the maxillary sinuses. We can take it back up to the top of the maxillary sinuses, and we compare both sides to one another. And when something gray appears, I want you to say this, okay? All right? So everybody here, you participate with me. When you see something gray between the black and the white, I want you to say this in your language, okay? Because I don't know how to say it in Vietnamese. So we're going to compare both sides. Go here and here, here and here, looking at both of these, looking for something gray. When the gray thing appears, say it. Yep, here, you see this? Come on, everybody. Everybody. Ah, there. You see? Right here. This is abnormality, okay? Something gray in the sinuses. The most common thing you're going to see is going to be sinusitis, sinus inflammation, okay? Sinus inflammation tends to be generalized, meaning that you're going to have something gray on both sides and in many sinuses, okay? If you see something gray like this on only one side, there is a list of differential diagnoses. One of them could be something called a mucus retention pseudocyst. A mucus retention pseudocyst is where you have fluid going underneath the Schneiderian membrane and lifting it, creating something that looks like a dome, okay? Like a semicircle soft tissue density. That's the most common thing you'll see, unilateral soft tissue density. The second most common thing that you will see as a dentist is called odontogenic sinusitis. So sinusitis coming from a dental infection, okay? And the way that you look for this is as you're going through the axial, you are going to look at the apices of the teeth. Do you guys see this? Okay. Let me show you one of the nice things about cone-beam CT. You can change the density to enable you to see it better. So I can create more brightness and more contrast, changing the brightness and contrast like this to see the structure better. And this becomes very important when you're looking for infection. It's very important when you're trying to see if a cortex is continuous or not, okay? So we see here the apices of the